and transfer ideas and a message between the artist and the viewer. And so there comes a point, though, when not everyone can understand this type of language. And in those cases, the artist needs to kind of transfer this visual communication into a literary activity and in the form of an artist statement. So the artist statement is becoming a really essential genre within the artistic sphere. And there are a couple of reasons for this. And the first is that the art world has kind of dismissed this idea that art speaks for itself. This used to be like really common, and there's a lot of older professors, more traditional, that would say that, you know, if you have to write about your art, you haven't done your job as an artist. But, you know, nowadays that's not necessarily true anymore. And there's a couple of reasons for that, especially. So there's this greater need for communication between artist and viewer, and this started like way back in art history. So if we look back a little bit, there was a rise in publicity that began in the 20th century. Sorry, guys. Okay, so if we're looking back to why this greater need of communication began between the artist and the viewer. And so it starts back in genres like, in fads in art history. So in the 20th century, there was new forms of art starting like Futurism and Dadaism. So Futurism is a movement that emphasized technology. Dadaism, I don't know if you guys recognize this at all, this fountain is art. And that was part of a movement called Dadaism. And they were striving to create a correlation between art and everyday life. And this was really new. This was really new to everyone because previous to that, art had a really specific focus. It was generally religious, and it was usually a painting that was kind of like, this is hell, and this is hell, and you're going to hell if you sin. And that was kind of what art was for. It was kind of to tell people what to do, and it had a purpose and a specific message. But art started to change in movements like this, and now it kind of evolved, and it created this broader audience and a new need to have a communication between the artist and the viewer so that they could kind of defend themselves and explain why they were making the art that they were making. And so this communication originally came in the form of a manifesto. And a manifesto is a statement by an artist or group of an artist that's trying to change the status quo. And the purpose of this genre as it relates to art was to make transparent the creation of art and as a deliberate and thought out process. So artists wanted their viewers to understand why they were creating the type of art they were making, especially when that art seemed like it wasn't really art, like in the case of Duchamp's fountain. It was urinal, right? So the artist statement actually derives from the manifesto. So they're similar in a couple ways where, you know, they're both public and both types of writing are trying to defend their art and provide some type of clarity to the body of work. So why is this all important? Why did I just give you a mini art history lesson? Because I really want to learn about the artist statement, and I want to learn about that genre, and to do that I need to understand its history and its culture and its context, and I need to understand this genre as something that changes in the world, and it changes to meet the needs of society. And so the genre of the artist statement isn't just this static thing. You know, it's moving, it's transforming in time. And in addition to the history, I also want to know about its presence today. And I want to understand what people think of it now. And so when I started doing some history on the artist statement, I started seeing a lot of like how-to articles, and a lot of that came with like this like step-by-step process, or like suggestions on what to include in your artist statement and things like that. And so the consensus was usually that you should be objective, receive help from peers, try not to be verbose, and make sure that your art lined up with your artist statement. And so the reason there's so much research about how to write the artist statement is because it's so needed in the art world today. And so in the modern era, writing about your art in the form of an artist statement is really essential for any artist's career. And And so any type of application, scholarship, artist residency, or a gallery requires you to create an artist statement for any type of consideration for grants and things like that. And so the purpose of that artist statement is then to provide your awareness and be able to kind of like defend yourself and defend why your art is worthy of recognition. And so Garrett Petz is a researcher in the field of inter-arts practices, and he describes the artist statement as part opportunity, part obligation. And so basically we're saying part of this is we have this obligation as an artist to create the artist statement, but we also have an opportunity to justify, legitimize, provide clarity, prove our worthiness, or whatever else the artist wants to do. And so the question kind of lies with which part is more important and who shares that belief. And so as part of my writing research, I conducted a short survey about the artist statement where I asked faculty and students in the School of Art to fill out a survey. And this is kind of like still a work in progress. Like I think I sent out the survey like 2 weeks ago. So I haven't gotten like too many responses, but this is kind of what it was. It's 10 questions. And I just asked some people to fill it out, kind of like about, have you written an artist statement? Why did you write it? Things like that. And so one of the questions was, you can go back to the Prezi now. So one of the questions was, why they created an artist statement. And the most common answer was an application. And so right after application, the second was personal practice, and it was either a requirement or like for a degree, like your BFA or MFA or something like that. Another question I asked was what they felt the goal of an artist statement was. And most people answered to provide a direction for the viewer to look. And the second most chosen answer was to provide an understanding, which is really interesting because the actual definition of an artist statement is to provide understanding. So it's kind of interesting that the people who are writing artist statements see it as something else, see it more as a tool than an actual way to explain your art. And then another one of my focuses during this project was to find out the opinions of the artist statement. And so the most chosen answer in that was that it was necessary in certain situations, like a gallery, and that you didn't always need an artist statement, but sometimes, because you're in the art world, you kind of need to do it. And so I also got some comments with that question, and one was kind of clarifying that maybe an artist statement was only needed with certain types of work, that it was needed with abstract art and not with representational art. Then another comment I got was that artist statements are completely unnecessary because, you know, art is meant to be interpreted, and if you give them an artist statement, you can't. The viewer cannot interpret the art anymore. So we're kind of all over the place with my responses with that one. And so when I get responses like that, it's really important to understand that there are different types of artist statements. Some artist statements really talk about the process, like Jackson Pollock specifically. His artist statement's all about the process. It's about, I put my painting on the floor and I walk around it. And it doesn't tell you why he named his paintings Autumn Rhythm. It just tells you about the process, and that's where you get your insight from. Other artists do statements that tell you exactly what you're looking at, and others really just give you a glimpse. And so the way an artist statement is written is really important, but also kind of the timing that you read an artist statement is also kind of important. And I'm going to kind of explain what I mean by the timing. So first, this is an artist statement by Julia Galloway. She was actually here a couple weeks ago. She did a demonstration over at the ceramic studio. And so first I'm going to read you an artist statement about a body of her work that she exhibited. So it says, in this exhibition there are two bodies of work. Both are rooted in ideas of communication. Still life depicts communication between and about objects, and talking represents communication of letters, words, and binary code. Talking. In the surface decoration on these pots, I'm using the alphabet and digital code to represent communication. I'm interested in how the letters or numbers come to meet each other across the form, ride up or fall down the sides of the pot, ordered or jumbled, they mirror daily conversations. Handmade pottery is naturally rich in ideas, metaphor, and utility. It seeps into our houses, our kitchens, and our rituals, and enriches our lives. Through use of decorating, the fill of our living spaces with character and elegance. For me, pottery is joyous, a reflection of our reality, our fantasies and ourselves, objects of desire in daily lives. So after reading that and listening to what she's trying to do with her work, let's look at a couple images. So this is all from the same exhibition, the same body of work. So my question now is kind of, well, what do you guys think about this? What did you think about the letters, since you kind of know, what she was thinking? How do you guys feel about it? Anyone? No?
I like the binary one.
You like the binary one?
No.
So, hearing her artist statement, though, it kind of told you where to look, right? You looked at the letters and you were like, yeah, communication. Because, that's what she was trying to accomplish, and we understood that. So, now we're going to do it opposite, though. I'm going to show you the artwork, and then we're going to talk about it. And so I want you to look at this next piece. It's by Jeremy Brooks. It's actually a performance-based object, so you're not really getting the full effect. In reality, it's a guy eating a cup. And so, the cup is made out of greenware, which is unfired clay. So, yeah, this cup is made out of clay, guys. So, what do you think of that? Why is he eating a cup? He's hungry. Okay. So maybe it's about hunger.
We consume art.
He's dressed in scrubs, and so it makes me think of a patient taking pills.
A patient taking pills. Yeah. So there's lots of different things we can think about this right now. And so the description, what was going on was that it's a performance-based object. It's cast medicinal clay, equivalent to a single dose of medicine. And this functional/edible object is equivalent to like a dose that would relieve stomach distress. So this clay cup, actually you can eat it and it will make your stomach feel better. And then so this is part of a whole body of work that Jeremy Brooks did. And it's a body of work called Material Studies. And so this is the artist statement that would go along with this. And it says that clay is a material that is more often than not considered sordid or dirty. However, applications in the field of medicine and cosmetology create a complicated but heightened sense of awareness of clay as a component. It also reveals a duality that exists between itself, the attributes of cleanliness and its unsanitary counterpart. I am drawn to the inherent physicality of clay and the conflicted duality that would mutually consider it both sordid yet sanitary. So I think that was kind of a mouthful, but kind of to explain that a little bit, it's clay, we consider it really dirty, right? It gets all over your hands when we're making stuff, and it gets all over the place. It comes from the ground. But it's also used in medicine and cosmetology, and in those fields, it's very clean. It has to be, right? And so this artist, Jeremy Brooks, is very interested in that duality that exists between this one material. And so he created a whole body of work, and one of those cups, that was part of it. So how do you feel about that now that you're looking at the cup? Do you feel differently about it? Do we still see it as him being hungry? Probably not, right? But it's worth taking a second look at now that you know what it's really about. And so I think, at this point, I think it's safe to say that the artist statement, when you see the artist statement, it's really important to how you're interpreting the artwork. And so when you see the artist statement as part of distribution, if we all can remember our chat terms correctly, and that affects the way you view the artwork, but the artwork itself is part of the reception. You use that artwork to create your artist statement. So there's a lot of conflicting chat things, there's a lot of different things going on in the artist statement, which is one of the reasons I find it so interesting. And I have a lot of questions about that, but I'm really not sure I'll ever answer them. Or figure out exactly how the artist statement works. But, I'm trying to understand this genre. And through writing research. I'm trying to understand this through writing research and write an article about it. So I really need to understand the views surrounding it also. And as I mentioned earlier, I sent out a survey to the School of Art. And so part of that process of me making a survey and trying to send it out within the school I had to go through the institutional review board, if anyone knows what that is. And so I had to fill out like 12 pages of paperwork, and they asked me everything from what questions were going to be on my survey, which is fine. And they asked me like where I kept my computer, and I was like, really? Like, come on. So that was a huge process for me. But without doing stuff like that, without having my own research, I don't think this project would be the same. You know, it wouldn't mean as much to me personally, and I don't think I would have gotten the kind of depth that I'm seeking with this project. And so what I really want this project to do is help other writing researchers. I don't want people to just use the information, because that's not going to apply to everyone, but the process that I used, that will. That process is a writing research process. And so, you know, the information is not all that important to everyone, but the process should be.